The wife of the CEO just wants to lie down. My CEO husband seems to have been heartbroken. On the day of his white moonlight wedding, the company lost several hundred million, and the pocket money was not paid to me on time. I was so upset that I sent him a text message overnight. It's okay, husband, I was just used to. A life without being a licker is incomplete, the other party sent a. Late at night, a private plane landed in Beijing North. My husband, who I haven't seen for several years, appeared in front of me, looked at me trembling, and sneered softly, "Who have you been a dog for? Come over and tell me clearly." I suspect that my CEO husband seems to have been heartbroken. On the third day after his white moonlight announced the marriage, Matthew's domestic business directly lost 300 million. Various media outlets dug out the secrets of Matthew and white moonlight Luna in the past. For a time, the discussion was overwhelming. Of course, the most heartbreaking thing is that Matthew seems to have forgotten to give me pocket money. Late at night, I suddenly sat up from the bed. I kicked off the quilt anxiously and walked around twice with my hands behind my back. The end of the month is coming soon. Is Matthew fine after his breakup? My Hermes is still in the window. I ran back to bed and solemnly picked up my phone to comfort him. It's okay, husband, I was just dumped too. A life without being a bootlicker is incomplete. Along with it was a screenshot of a short essay. He grew to the point where his face glowed green in the dark night. Look, am I not also being a bootlicker? There's no need to abandon your career because of a relationship. After doing all this, I let out a long sigh. I lay down peacefully in bed. My besties all said that I have some talent in comforting people. Look, Matthew is broken-hearted and still needs my mother to comfort him. The phone suddenly vibrated, and the dazzling screen light pierced through the night. I half opened one eye and glanced at the text message from Matthew.A. I smiled, turned over comfortably, and fell asleep. Oh, man. Thin-skinned. My sleep quality has always been good. So, when I opened my eyes at 4:30 in the afternoon, I found that Beijing had changed. There were more than 100 bombarding messages on my phone. Most of them were, "Your husband is back." I jumped out of bed in shock. I have been married to Matthew for 7 years, and we have been apart for a long time. He has been stationed overseas for many years due to business reasons. He has hardly said a few words to me. Apart from the 3 million yuan deposited into his account on time every month, I have been sending him links crazily, asking him to buy luxury goods from abroad. The sender has always been his secretary Jack. As a result, the courier brother thought that Jack was my husband. That night, I sat down in the bar booth and was surrounded by honey. What's going on? Did your husband come back to grab the bride? It is said that Luna is a pure and innocent girl. Last time I saw her being bullied by her fiancé, her eyes were red. When Luna cries, the man will be soft-hearted. Aren't you anxious? I exhaled deeply. Why not? The problem is that there is no use in being anxious. What if he divorces you? As I was talking, my shoulder was pushed. A pretty boy stood shyly in front of me. Sister, why are you alone? Do you need someone to accompany you? My brain was blank for a moment, and I forgot the topic of my best friend. I was just about to ask him how old he was this year. The door of the bar was suddenly kicked open by someone. A group of police rushed in. Scan X, squat down. While I was still confused, the male model turned his head and got into my arms. Then, a warm and pleasant voice came from the door. Officer Stephen, can I take my fiancé away? Of course, thanks to Mr. Matthews' intelligence tonight, I believe your wife will not be that kind. A strange and familiar. 3 years later, still gentle and elegant. Like the thin morning mist in the south of the Yangtze River, mysterious and attractive. The boundary between light and dark slid across his slender legs and narrow waist. Gradually, Matthew stopped in front of me. A beam of light just fell between his eyebrows and eyes, outlining the perfect and deep facial features. He looked down at me and the little male model, and I wanted to say something. The young male model suddenly avoided the hand of the policeman beside him and jumped on me, yelling, "I am her boyfriend, you misunderstood me." Sister, sister. I shook off the male model's hand like a dogskin plaster. Amid the shrill screams, I hugged Matthew's waist and showed a frightened smile. Husband, don't worry, they all ordered, only I didn't order because I thought it was dirty. The black Bentley sped through the night. Matthew has not spoken to me since he got in the car. Actually, I can understand. Bai Guang is about to get married, but his wife is still ordering male models outside. No one understands him, he must be very sad. I sighed softly at the car window. Xiao turned his head and saw that my sadness at 45 degrees also covered the indifference in my eyes. Oh, he is sharing his thoughts with me. Good thing. I wiped my tears. It's all tears if I talk too much, forget it. I always feel that Matthew's mood tonight is extremely bad. After returning home, he still didn't talk to me, and his mood is about to break. I sighed and patted him sympathetically. Let's take a shower first. Let's lie in bed and chat tonight, rainy days. I was so happy while taking a shower. My mind was full of happy chatting with him tonight. I remembered to transfer the pocket money. 10 minutes later, I was wearing a big bathrobe and rushed out of the bathroom. The night was dark. Matthew was sitting on the sofa in the corner waiting for me. His face was hidden in the dim light, and I couldn't see his expression clearly. The two long legs were crossed wantonly, which made people feel leisurely and dangerous. Have you finished washing? Suddenly I had a bad feeling. Matthew gently took off his watch, and then raised his eyes. Then roll over and tell me clearly. Who are you being a dog for? The idea of running away only appeared for a second. My legs were already carrying my body. Click. I pressed the door handle hard, but the door didn't open. Matthew was the last one to come in just now. Did he lock the door? There was a faint sound from behind. He stood in the dim light, his dark eyes were like a calm lake, and his patience was obviously exhausted. Sharon, I'll say it again, come here. I stuck to the door vigilantly and shouted confidently, I've broken up. What else do you want from me? Do I have to die with him? Matthew laughed angrily, his voice couldn't be any softer. Shouldn't I be angry about your breakup? I stared with my eyes wide open and blinked in confusion. You should be angry because I'm in love, right? The room fell into a strange silence. Matthew suddenly laughed, Sharon, you have guts. When he lifted me up, I was still confused. The next second, I was thrown onto the soft bed. With a light click, Matthew threw me into the soft quilt and began to roll up his sleeves slowly. I crawled around on the bed, wailing miserably, my silk sheets. You wrinkled them. I'll buy you new ones. Matthew's answer was extremely perfunctory, but his hands were not vague at all. He dragged me back by my ankle, and then rolled me into a caterpillar in 2 or 3 moves. My angry screams came from the bedroom. Let me go. Sleep at home tonight, don't go anywhere. Matthew patted my butt. Be obedient, come over. Facing my angry eyes, Matthew took off his coat very calmly, lay down beside me, and closed his eyes. I stiffened my neck, looking unconvinced. You went to bed without taking a shower. I took a shower before coming here. Matthew seemed a little tired, and his voice was tired when he spoke with his eyes closed. I remembered that Matthew returned to Beijing North last night. He came to see me tonight. It means that he went to see Luna first and was rejected by her. I realized that I should shut up, but my brain kept telling me to gossip. So, I curiously moved in front of Matthew's face. I rubbed his chin with my furry head. Matthew sighed and opened his eyes. What do you want to do now? My eyes were bright. Are you broken up, or are you directly cheated? Matthew glanced at me, and a minute later, I was even blocked. Before I married Matthew, my family's business was not doing well. My stepmother was so anxious that she wanted to give me to a rich old man immediately to get some working capital. She was the most anxious when Matthew returned to China this time. Can you control your husband? If not, come back quickly, I will arrange a blind date for you. This is not good, I haven't divorced yet. It's only a matter of time, I will arrange a handsome guy for you this time. My resisting heart became restless when I saw the photo handsome guy. At this time, the scandal between Matthew and Luna had become a big deal. A reporter broke the video of the two entering and leaving the hotel one after another. It was on the day he returned to China. Many people speculated that Luna's engagement would be invalidated soon. I was in a hurry to find the next one, so I wanted to ask Matthew what he meant. If you want to divorce, you have to hurry. After all, handsome guys in the blind date market don't wait. When I walked to the door of Matthew's office, the secretary stopped me and said with an embarrassed look, Matthew is angry, you should not go in now. This time I vaguely heard a woman sobbing from inside the door. I have never done anything to let you down. From the beginning to the end, I love you, why do you torture me like this? The man's tone was almost indifferent. Ms. Lin, I am not forcing you, you can make your own decision. Of course, you can also choose to quit the circle. Oh, by the way, Luna is an 18th tier actress. TSK, what a classic combination of romantic abuse. I was listening to it fascinated, and the door suddenly opened from the inside. I met the woman inside. I saw that the other party had bright eyes and looked bright and shining, just with red eyes. The whole world felt that they were wrong. Luna twitched and cried very pitifully. Are you happy to see me like this? I really hate you, get out of the way. She pushed me away and disappeared at the end of the corridor. Obviously, Luna and Matthew had a quarrel. If I had known better, I would have taken a taxi home, but knowing better is based on the fact that the money is in place. He didn't pay any money and still wanted to save trouble, no way. 2 minutes later, I kicked open the door of Matthew's office with confidence. The contents of the contract were revealed. Matthew actually forced Luna to sign a contract to sell her body. Real life robbery. Fuck. He is really not a human being. Matthew was sitting in the boss's chair. He heard the noise and looked over. There was still a coldness in his eyes. I swallowed my saliva, pinched my waist, rolled up an A4 paper and went straight to the boss's desk like a wife. Matthew, I have worked like a cow and a horse for this family for 3 years. I have no credit but hard work. How dare you? Matthew put away the documents and lowered his head to operate on his mobile phone for a while. The mobile phone received a transfer, 3 million. Note, voluntary gift. The lines I was about to say got stuck in my throat, and I felt relaxed instantly. Matthew raised his eyelids and asked, "What happened to me?" Half of his face was bathed in the sun, but he couldn't hide the tiredness in his eyes. I smoothed the contract and put it on his desk. "You actually returned a drop of water with a spring of water. You are really a role model in the CEO world." "Well, I got it. Anything else?" Matthew obviously didn't have much patience and didn't want to argue with me. I shook my head tactfully, and when I turned around, I stared at another man. "Oh? He looks familiar. Isn't this the blind date my stepmother introduced to me? He is so handsome. Hello." I turned into a little clip in a second, and I almost wrote happiness on my face. The handsome guy didn't react, but Matthew spoke first, and his tone was obviously unhappy. "You are not allowed to stay out overnight recently, stay at home honestly." I was about to refute. Matthew smiled, "The transfer can be withdrawn within 24 hours. With the 3 million, there seemed to be no need to make a fuss. Matthew seemed to be very busy and never came back. In just this month, Luna's resources were snatched away one after another. Almost banned by the entire industry. At the cocktail party that day, I ran into Luna who was bullied. Red wine was splashed on her clothes, and she curled up in the corner, crying pitifully. Matthew had one business meeting after another tonight. Too busy to get away. During the period, he didn't even look at Luna. I walked over and was about to quietly take away a bowl of fried chicken popcorn, but was caught by Luna. I was so scared that I trembled and froze in place. Do you eat chicken popcorn? If not, I'll take it all away." Luna paused, and her tears fell even harder. "You are going to bully me too? I can't compare to your family background, your connections, and now I don't even have the qualifications to get close to you." This sentence successfully shut me up. I think Luna's brain is a little bit wrong. But I didn't dare to provoke her, so I had to run away with the bowl. When Matthew saw me, I was snatching a large bowl of popcorn from Luna. Matthew paused, and the casual look on his face disappeared. After whispering something to the man next to him, he strode towards me. "Hey, I didn't bully her." He didn't listen to my explanation, grabbed my wrist expressionlessly, pulled me behind him, and said to Luna, "Ms. Lin, I seem to have said that you should stay away from my wife." I was stunned while holding the popcorn. "Huh? Didn't scold me?" Luna apologized hurriedly, "I'm sorry, but Mr. Matthew, I couldn't help it. I don't want it to happen again." After Matthew finished speaking, he dragged me out of the venue. Along the way, I lowered my head and didn't speak. Alcohol and popcorn mixed in my stomach, producing a strange reaction. I felt dizzy and happy. As soon as Matthew brought me into the room, I kicked off high heels and ran. Matthew grabbed me and sat me on bed. "How much did you drink?" Matthew's shirt wrinkled, the sandalwood on him spread faintly, rough fingertips pinched my wrist. I was restless and struggled. "Let go." He covered my mouth. "Twan mouth, don't be like a calf." He was cool and comfortable. I propped up and hugged his neck. Matthew's eyes dimmed, seemed waiting for me to speak. Asked, "What's the name of handsome guy in your office?" Matthew narrowed eyes. "Are you sure?" Mentioned someone else. I hummed, unsatisfied. "His face attractive," touched his lips. "Then you give me a taste, okay?" Matthew's fingers slid along my back. I became soft. Matthew picked me up and walked into bathroom. Warm yellow light outlined his face. He rolled up sleeves and pushed me into bathtub, coaxed softly frowny face shoo. After bath. I love to hear this. Stopped struggling, remember sprinkled water on his shirt. Things developed unpredictably. It started to rain outside. Someone put my hand on waist, compared, which one better? I mumbled, good waist. A sneer came, "You are useless, hold tight. Don't care if it falls." When done, midnight. My eyelids heavy, sank into pillow. The other party massaged my waist, said something, remember 2 sentences, "Stay away from Luna or die miserably." The next day, I stood in room, wronged. First seduced me, then asked me leave him, by you, used body to negotiate. My best friend looked at kiss mark. "How is his technique?" "Not bad." The room suddenly became quiet. I was a little irritable. "Yes, I admit that his technique is amazing, but so what? He also gave you money." My best friend hit the nail on the head. "To some extent, he is a role model. Whenever you want to sleep with him, just bully Luna." I was shocked. How did she come up with this idea? This idea is really brilliant. After this, I felt at ease for another month. I planned to wait until I was greedy for my senior brother, and then summon him to sleep with me. As a result, Luna was photographed entering and leaving the maternal and child hospital. It caused an uproar on the internet. Whose child is Xia? I bet a dime that it is Matthew's. Impossible, isn't she going to marry Jason? When the internet was buzzing, I found that my period had not come. One warm and quiet afternoon, I sat across from Matthew's desk with a serious face. I might have done it, even if I acted as if I didn't care. My heart was still filled with a bit of bitterness, facing my still tense expression. "Okay, do you want it?" It was obviously a gentleman's look, but it contained a hint of sifting through people. His reaction was so strange. This feeling was only a very short moment, so fast that it seemed like an illusion. I cleared my throat. "What do you mean, do you want it or not? Do you want it or not?" Before I finished speaking, a message suddenly popped up on my phone. Luna announced the cancellation of the engagement. Luna may have rekindled her relationship with her ex. Matthew's eyes fell on the computer screen and he shut up. Obviously, he had also seen the news and was in no mood to continue this topic. My heart was blocked. You go ahead, I'm going back. After that, he walked towards the door without looking back. His face turned pale instantly, and tears rolled down instantly. My stomach hurt so much. My child, who will save me? I really. Matthew stood up from the chair almost instantly, strode towards me with a surging black color. For the first time, he shouted in a strong and cold tone, Sharon, get out of the way. I was frightened by his sharp tone in an instant. It would be a lie to say that I didn't feel wrong. I was about to point at Luna and shout, you are despicable and shameless, when Matthew covered my mouth and hugged me. Step back a few steps, far away from Luna. 1 second. A cold voice came from me with a hint of madness. Who touched my Luna? Call a doctor. If you can't cure her, I'll let all of you accompany me. I was horrified to see my prospective blind date holding Luna tightly in his arms. With 3 points of cold room, 3 points of heartache, 3 points of regret, and 1 point of hatred. He looked at me as if he wanted to tear me into pieces. Matthew blocked me calmly. Mr. Fu, don't vent your anger on anyone. At this moment, all the people around. I recognized the man in front of me. It was Jason. The man who broke off the engagement with Luna. Luna was still lying on the ground, crying, our child. Woo. Fu Jingchen picked her up horizontally, glared at me a few times as a warning, turned and left. I quietly stuck out half of my head and whispered, I think we should call the police. What do you think? Xiao ruthlessly put me back. Shut up, don't make a sound, stay away from them. I was still mumbling until I went to bed at night. So, you don't let me get close to Luna because they are abnormal? Matthew raised his eyebrows, indicating his agreement. What about when you forced them to sign the contract to sell their bodies? What were you thinking? Matthew said, if I remember correctly, there were 2 people in the office that day, and you couldn't hear your voice, right? I was just embarrassed for a moment, pretending that I couldn't hear it, and took the offensive approach. Question. You went in and out with her. Coincidence. Seeing me looking at him with the eyes of a liar, Matthew sighed. Fu Jingchen has severe paranoia and bipolar disorder. That night, I went to clean up Jason's mess. At this time, I realized that Jason was Matthew's brother since childhood. I was stunned. What about Luna? Luna. Matthew's eyes flashed with a trace of suspicion. It was Jason's ex-girlfriend. I remember that it was Jason who broke up. But now, he seems to only trust Luna. Oh, I huddled in the quilt and planned to close my eyes, but I suddenly opened them in less than 3 seconds. Someone said you accompanied Luna to the prenatal checkup. Matthew opened his eyes, and his sight seemed a little deep in the dim moonlight. Why should I accompany her for prenatal checkup? I'm not sick. I kept muttering, they also said that Luna's child is yours. Matthew pressed me on the bed with a cold face, turned over, and hurried on. Realizing that Matthew wanted to punish me, I protected my round belly as if I was facing a great enemy. I have a child. Bullshit. You just ate too much. Matthew rarely cursed. You just delayed your period, not pregnant. I struggled to crawl forward. Oh, then what do you want to do? Matthew grabbed me back and sneered. Of course, to make your dream come true. Perhaps because he was afraid that I would have affairs outside. Matthew has always brought me with him to eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom, and I can't do without his surveillance. I don't know why. He looked at me with an inexplicable look. I think you are a bit perverted. Don't talk. Oh. It was noon, and more people came to the restaurant. I stared at Luna and Fu Jing, who walked in from the door a quarter of an hour ago. Are they sick? Why do they have to sit next to me? Luna seemed to have suddenly discovered me and took the initiative to come over and greet me. When she said this, she glanced at Matthew calmly. As a result, the table was overturned. Jason swept my lunch all over the floor. Luna, have I been too nice to you recently? So much so that you have forgotten your origins. Luna was pushed to the ground, crying, Jason, you misunderstood me. I was held in Matthew's arms with mango pudding crumbs all over my head. I was shivering. Help. I want to call the police. Why would someone with a mental illness be released? And 2 of them at once. Facing my weak and helpless gaze, Matthew said, I'll take you out to eat. When we left, Jason was still pinching Luna's neck and kissing her forcefully as if no one was around. Matthew covered my eyes and said to Jason, stay away, don't block our way. I was pulled away by Matthew, standing on the street. The pudding was stuck to my head, sticky. Matthew took out a tissue and pressed me to wipe my hair. I seemed to be hit, my eyes were wide open. Have they ever played anything more exciting, like digging kidneys? Not yet. The wind blew, and Matthew coughed a few times. He wrapped me in his coat again and touched my head. Go home. I didn't expect Matthew to be such a fragile shark. Just a few small breezes, he caught a cold and had a high fever. Fortunately, the last incident left me with a big psychological shadow, and I didn't want to go out. I just stayed at home to take care of the patient. At this moment, Matthew was lying in bed. A faint blush appeared on his fair face and neck. The slender hand gently covered his forehead, and his eyes were closed, but he couldn't hide his weakness. I leaned over and was about to kiss him, but was caught by Matthew, who opened his eyes. He asked, "What do you want to do?" "I want to kiss you." Matthew sighed, "I have a cold, stay away." I hesitated for a moment, and still chose to squat beside the bed to watch over him. "Do you want some porridge?" "I'll make it." Matthew pushed me away. "Be quiet, it will be fine in a while." On the third day of Matthew's illness, Luna and Jason were on the hot search again. Luna was missing. The people sent by Jason almost turned the whole Jingbei upside down. When I learned the news, I had just been scalded by the hot porridge and was applying burn ointment to the red and swollen area. I woke up Matthew, who was still sleeping. Matthew woke up slowly, pressed me in his arms, and ruffled my hair. "Don't mind their business." I seriously suspected that Matthew pretended to be sick in order to avoid the quiet. It was raining heavily outside the window, and I dragged Matthew up to eat porridge. But the porridge was not cooked. Matthew ate all the porridge without saying a word. For a while, there was only the sound of cups and plates colliding in the living room. I was making the recipe for the next meal, and the doorbell rang suddenly. I thought it was a courier, so I ran to open the door. As soon as I opened it, a face that I felt sorry for appeared in my sight. Luna was soaking wet, looking at Matthew through me. "Matthew, I have nowhere to go. Can I stay here tonight?" Luna bit her lip and put on that pitiful look again. I stood at the door as if facing a formidable enemy. "There is no room in our house, stay away." Unexpectedly, Luna burst into tears. "Matthew, I'm really fed up. I have to act with Jason every day. After 3 years, his condition has not improved at all." Matthew put away the empty bowl, too lazy to lift his eyelids. "So what do you mean?" Luna sobbed and said, "Don't you like me? As long as you are willing, I will give up Jason and come to you." After hearing this, a mask of pain appeared on my face. Matthew has stood up from behind the table. His eyes were extremely cold. "This is not a shelter. If you have any difficulties, go to the police." Luna's eyes were full of disbelief. "I don't understand why you didn't choose me. How is she better than me? Just like a beautiful person, you know she is beautiful since childhood. Luna became famous at a young age. Although she has no good works, she is a hot topic. Everyone on the internet praises her as a goddess descending from heaven. Her hot searches have always been the scandals with the heirs of major families." So when she heard Matthew's words, her first reaction was to question. Matthew sneered, "I'm not blind. I like someone and I won't wait for her to come to me." I suddenly remembered the year when Matthew and I got married. My stepmother spread my birth date and horoscope all over Beijing. When she married my father, she also brought a daughter. So she wanted me to marry well, but she didn't want me to marry that well. At that time, my reputation in Beijing was extremely bad. Before the Spring Festival, I was driven out of my family. I hid from the wind and snow in a small pub. It was the first day of the new year, and the sound of firecrackers outside was one after another. When I walked out, the wind blew into my neck, and I realized that I was in a hurry last night and even forgot to wear a scarf. Matthew came over from behind and handed me a scarf. "It's cold, wear it." I still remember that scarf was a winter model of a luxury brand, and only those who spent more than 10 million yuan were eligible to buy it. My tears flowed at that time. Partly because I was cold, and partly because it was the first time I wore such an expensive scarf. Matthew looked at me for a while and said, "I know your stepmother is looking for a marriage partner. Do you want to try with me?" I still remember my reaction at that time. "Is it really possible? You are so rich, are you willing to marry a poor guy like me who has nothing?" Matthew smiled. "Don't worry, you won't be one soon." What Matthew said now made me unconsciously suspect that he had been planning for me for a long time. Hearing Matthew's words, Luna collapsed. "I don't believe it. If you like her, why did you stay overseas for 3 years without going home? And Jason is your best brother? Shouldn't you take care of me for him?" Matthew's last bit of patience was exhausted. "First, she likes to spend money, I want to make money, and second, I didn't come back because you want to get married." He picked up his phone and called the community security guard. "A homeless person broke into my house. Please come and drive him out." In less than 3 minutes, Luna was sent away by the security guard. Fu Jingchen seemed to bring someone and took her to the car. I was stunned by the sight. Are they okay?" Matthew watched the car go away expressionlessly and closed the door. He led me back to the bedroom. "No problem, don't worry." When I came back to my senses, I asked without thinking, "You said you like me?" Matthew stared at me with a smile. "Really forgot? What? You were drunk and kissed me in the bar." I suddenly groaned in my heart. Suddenly I was a little uncertain. After all, in my bestie's description, I really don't drink well and I am prone to blackouts. Then you proposed? Matthew hummed, I'm a conservative person, and I care more about my first time. Then, Matthew grabbed me who was running out of the door because of guilt, and said slowly. I've reflected on it. If people pay too much attention to work, they will lose something else. It's normal that you don't have feelings for me. We can cultivate slowly. Now, can you tell me who you are being a licker for? Thinking of those unbearable chat records, I instantly wilted, try to blame others. You and Luna's affairs are known to everyone. I don't even want to talk about you. How dare you blame me? Matthew didn't pursue me, but hugged me in his arms and pinched my cheek. I really thought you didn't care, what? You are being a licker for others, so I can't have buy you a guang? Also, when did I not stand on your side after I came back? Meeting my knife-like eyes, Matthew smiled, if you are jealous, just say it. If you say it, I will clarify it. I won't say it. I just fell in love with the feeling of lying flat. All I do every day is eat, sleep, and spend money. So much so that when I was cyberbullied, people were all pitiful. My bestie sent me a message as soon as possible. Did you see that? Luna is bullying you behind your back again. How could I offend her? I clicked on the video sent by my bestie and saw that Luna was sitting there. But this time, the reluctance on her face was obvious. People always have to compromise with reality. I was kicked out of Matthew's house. And Jason's mental state has not been very good over the years. It's better to sacrifice me. Or something. On the day this sentence was sent out, the stock prices of Jason's and Matthew's families plummeted and there was a lot of scolding on the internet. I support Luna and Matthew, but the woman next to them is an eyesore. That's right, we have been together for so many years, why doesn't she have a good time and give it to others? I heard that Jason is mentally ill. Oh my god, then I am more like Lin Gu CP. Matthew is a total of. They are. The crowd of people watching the fun gathered below. You are so brave. Mrs. Gu will be upset later. She is the original wife. If it were you, would you be calm? Yes, me too. Because of this, Jason's family almost broke down the door and went to Matthew to discuss countermeasures. Even my stepmother came to the door. She dragged me and kowtowed to Matthew to apologize. How about this, I will let Sharon divorce you. You keep the company and remember me, and we will cooperate normally in the future. Matthew, who was originally indifferent to Jason's family, reacted for the first time. He raised his eyelids and asked, have you asked her what she thinks? Of course I asked, I didn't agree. As a result, my arm was almost swollen from being pinched. I wanted to speak, but my stepmother pinched me and I screamed. Matthew stood up, took a big step towards me, pulled me behind him, rolled up his sleeves, looked at my red skin from being pinched, and warned in a deep voice, I can still talk to you properly now, I advise you to get out now. My stepmother shuddered with fear and took 2 steps back. You don't have to take risks for her. She is my wife. If I don't take risks for her, will I take risks for her? I am stupid. In fact, from the beginning, I didn't expect Matthew to help me. After all, this marriage was hasty. The environment I grew up in led me not to expect much from others, so when I heard this, my nose was still, it was a little sore. I bumped my head into Matthew's arms and held him tightly. After a while, I cried and laughed. Knowing that Matthew was not going to give up this marriage, I also stayed up all night to write a short essay of 3,000 words. I accused Luna of shamelessness and unreasonableness. Before the netizens went to the Morning Post, I sent it with 1 click. The whole day after that, the incident ushered in a huge reversal. My best friend told me happily, Luna was scolded to autism, why is she so gossiping? Seeing that Jason was not counted on, I started to choose again. My excitement was not over yet. Did you see my clarification? I wrote it very seriously. My best friend replied in a hurry, no, yours is too long, I'm too lazy to read it. Your husband's post is more shocking than me. I hurriedly clicked on Weibo. I saw that in the early morning yesterday, when I was reading the Xinhua dictionary like a hawk, Matthew used his personal account to post a sentence, which was pure rumor and had sued Ms. Lin. A lawyer's letter was hung on the homepage, and it was pinned to allow forwarding, commenting and collection. This message was quickly uploaded to the internet. Many passers-by posted my essay below, look, she really wrote 3,000 words. Why do I think Sharon doesn't look like a thoughtful person? People who read the essay said I have to make a fuss even if my job is overturned. There was a quarrel on the internet one day. In the evening, another hot search ignited the news that Luna and Jason's engagement was cancelled. When Matthew and I went to the restaurant for dinner, we just passed by Jason. He had a bandage wrapped around his wrist. His eyes were black and blue, and he looked gloomy. Matthew said that Jason's family was in serious internal strife. At the critical moment when Jason's father was selecting an heir, Jason was exposed to mental illness. As a result, his plan for many years was completely lost. When I heard this, I was surprised. I thought he was pretending. For example, he would play a trick on the occasion. Matthew laughed. No, he really likes it. Because Jason had left a really bad impression on me before, I was scared and hid behind Matthew when I ran into him. Jason just glanced at me lightly, turned and walked out. It started raining again in Beijing North. He stood in the rain, like a poor dog. A woman suddenly rushed out of the door. She tripped and fell into the puddle, looking very embarrassed. Jason, can we start again? Everything I do is to make you get better. The man who was crazy in the past could not see any warmth at this moment. You can believe you in the rain with other men? Deep tired. Forget it, don't you have a lot of men? He took off the ring on the ring finger and threw it out. I have been in Beijing. In the middle of the night, I was curled up in the bed, and my face was illuminated by the green light of the mobile phone screen. Suddenly, the quilt was lifted, and Matthew looked at my green face calmly and asked, Sharon, who are you messaging? I wanted to hide my phone in a hurry, but it was pulled away by his other hand. What I saw was a screen full of dog-licking speeches. Please, pay attention to me, I really need it now. Matthew looked at my lewd words and laughed angrily. Isn't it enough for me to satisfy you? Suddenly, the other party sent a message. You and your husband's fanfiction, right? I have a schedule next week. As usual, send me the settings. Matthew looked at a few unfamiliar words and fell into deep thought. Then, the other party threw a document over domineering stepson. What should I do if my stepmother is targeted by my stepson? This article has been written. It's both meat and vegetables. I swear, I have never seen such a complicated expression on Matthew's face in my life. It was a complex feeling between anger, shame, helplessness, and secret joy. He laughed in anger, dug me out of the bed, and forced me to open the file. Those wolf-like words scared me so much that I couldn't say a word and went straight into the bed. You beg people to write novels for you every day? It's hard to make an appointment. If you don't ask, people will ignore you. Gu Mingxing didn't let me off easily. Throughout the whole process, he practiced every word in the book meticulously. His laughter was very light, like a feather, tickling my heart. What are you hiding from? Isn't practice better than theory? What else do you want to practice? I promise you. I was dizzy with his coaxing, and I explained clearly all the deeds of being a dog to the authors over the years. The accumulated small essays were pressed into more than a dozen folders. Matthew was in a very good mood, and he kept me busy until dawn in the east before letting me go. My mind was no longer working. There wasn't much skin left. Matthew seemed to ask me some questions. Something like love or not, which was quite abstract. I don't remember what I answered. I was dazed and suddenly dreamed of that snowy New Year. I was in a pub, drunk. I went straight to Matthew. In front of all his friends, I pressed him down on his seat and asked, Do you have a girlfriend? There were boos all around. Matthew stared at my face and smiled slightly, not yet. Then I pressed him down and kissed him. I bit his lip savagely. Matthew didn't say anything, but I cried first. Am I pretty? Pretty. Is it illegal for a beautiful woman to be with a handsome man? No. It turns out that I married into a wealthy family based on my strength. I turned over in my sleep and hugged Matthew happily. I muttered, I am really capable. Matthew kissed me, smiled with me, and said, Yes, Sharon is really a capable person.